do we have a God? I'm dizzy. Do we have a lot to talk about with this chapter? So let's just get straight into it, bro. What a chapter, bro. One Piece chapter 1101. What a crazy chapter that we just got. So we have a lot to talk about. Not a lot of time to talk about it because if I wanted to talk about this in its entirety, this might have to be a 2,000-hour video. Before we get into the chapter, I'm not new to YouTube, but I am new to this channel, and one of the lessons that I have just learned, maybe one of the many lessons that I will learn, is that some of the craziest things that you can say will end up becoming relevant in the future. Things that you wouldn't even believe would have like a speck of importance will become important in the future. What I mean is this clip right here. But if Katarina can copy Devil Fruits, which would be cheating, by the way, then that mystery is very hard to solve. But I don't think she can copy Devil Fruits. So me talking about Katarina Devine and something that could be her fruit ability, which there was a high chance of that not being the case, ended up becoming relevant in the future in the terms of this chapter. And we are going to talk about that. I might have to make an entirely different video on that topic alone, and something else that happens in this chapter. This chapter was a wellspring of content, and I'm gonna do a little bit of dipping into that well. So the active kind of theme right now is that while Luffy is getting prepared to start his journey, all this stuff is currently happening on the side. And it's kind of crazy to think, you know, kind of in your brain, imagine Luffy's doing all this, or Bonney and Kuma's backstory is all happening. It's real sweet over here, but the real story and like all kind of crazy stuff is happening before episode 1. And literally, it is crazy that if One Piece was handled by a different person, it's kind of crazy to think how some people would have taken a different route with this. Not saying this is what I would prefer or anything, but imagine instead of all this happening, like we skip all the backstories and we just go through Luffy's journey. And imagine we had like a One Piece Zero, or we had like a One Piece, you know, a One Piece of just the backstories and everything that happened before Luffy's journey. And this whole arc that's going on right now, this is gonna be a large span of episodes. Like this literally could have been a whole anime on its own, because you guys know how the anime gets down. It gets maybe 1 or 2 chapters per episode. This could have been a whole anime by itself, a whole 12 episode anime by itself called One Piece Kuma. Like this could have been its own anime. And it's crazy to think if somebody else was in charge of One Piece, imagine how many anime series that someone could have made out of all of One Piece. Like imagine all the seasons. Like if One Piece was a 12 episode seasonal anime, imagine how many seasons this manga would have. A crazy amount. But enough rambling, let's get into the chapter. All this is happening while Luffy is beginning to go on his journey, and Kuma, we see the beginning of something that I really didn't notice until I read the chapter like a second time over, is that Kuma has been looking over Luffy for way longer than we had initially thought. This is 3 years before the current events, so a year when Luffy was 16, a year before he set out on his journey, Kuma already has been looking after him since then. So all this stuff that is currently happening, it's like there's a deeper meaning to this. And Kuma looking over Luffy kinda is just him being a W mans for real. Because later in like maybe the next page, Kuma is talking to Dragon saying that he saw this boy in Fusha village, you know, kind of training, doing whatever. Turns out that he found Luffy, Dragon's son, and Dragon was like, come on man, you might as well put a gun to the back of my head. You found my biggest weakness. His specific quote was that children is a parent's biggest weak spot. And later on, it's the fact that this is before everything is happening. He proves this exact point. Smoker in Logtown was just about to get Luffy, and Dragon pops up, completely reveals himself, and kind of puts his neck out there for Luffy, saves him from Smoker in Logtown, blowing not only his cover, but also his secrecy to the public. Because remember, at this point, now we know, at this point in the show, when Dragon pops up, we didn't know anything about him, but now we know that when he popped up, this wasn't just, you know, a dad coming to save his son. This is a war general completely making himself vulnerable and going out to save his son. This could have been very bad, you know? And with Smoker being who Smoker is, he could have really changed how this story would have went on if he went and told everyone. I don't specifically remember if he told everyone. Let me know in the comments. Please correct me. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But if he would have told everyone that Dragon is Luffy's dad, imagine like us outside from being a pirate. Imagine how the Marines would have moved. They would have moved a lot differently, because going back to what Dragon said a kid is a parent's worst weak spot. If this war army general, his biggest weak spot is his son. Now imagine what the Marines could have did easily to get Dragon. All they would have had to do was kidnap Luffy, and Dragon would have had no choice but to fall for their trap. But I don't know if Smoker told everyone this or not, or, you know, I don't know if he told them this. Please let me know in the comments. I'll probably do my research after this, but imagine, you know, nothing but a year before saying that, he had to blow his cover. And after that, we never really saw Dragon again, because that was a huge moment of weakness for him. So he kind of learned his lesson and put his trust in Luffy to protect himself, and also put his trust in Kuma, who kind of took his role as, like, you know, kind of like a real through and through protector of Luffy. Because after seeing Luffy and learning that Luffy was Dragon's son, the whole show, Kuma has been, you know, stepping in at really important parts, giving knowledge and feedback. You know, even though we really didn't know it, we just thought Kuma was this guy that's just really helpful the whole time. You know, Kuma is Dragon's, you know, mans, and has been helping Luffy throughout the entirety of this show. And this all happened on a whim. He randomly found Luffy. Dragon probably never would have told Kuma that Luffy was his son, but he found him, and ever since then, he's been helping Luffy in some of the craziest parts of the show. Probably been helping Luffy the most out of everyone, and earning a well-deserved spot in my top 5 of the tier list. Bartholomew Kuma, you're a legend, bro. You're a legend, and I hope that the next chapter gives us something crazy, because it really, once again, sucks that you did all this just to lose yourself. That really sucks. But let's move forward. So we move over to Bonney in Sorbet with Queen Dowager and this guy whose name I don't remember. They're once again taking care of her, and we get a little bit of a deep dive into what exactly has been going on since Kuma is gone. And we learned that we have ourselves another person that needs to be added into my Q tier of my tier list. I should have put up custom PNG of Alpha, this stupid nurse. I hate you, because this entire time Kuma has been sending letter after letter after letter after letter to Bonney, and Bonney didn't get a single one of them, because she has been ripping them up and throwing them away. And Bonney has been sitting here thinking, like, why is my dad not sending me letters, when the whole time he has, this bitch has just been ripping them up. And for that, I don't like you, and forever will not like you. I'm glad what happened to you in the end of the chapter happened to you. I hope you died from that hit. I hope you died. Something is really foreshadowed in the chapter. We see like a panel of Bonney kind of bulking up, saying she wants to spar with the guy, and I just kind of brushed it off, because like that's just something that she can do. But later on in the chapter, that becomes way more important, but we will get to that. So we pan over to Egghead, where Vegapunk has, I don't know if he has finished his satellite idea where he makes clones of himself and they can do everything for him. But what he did do was he got the tower together where all of his information is, and he put the little thing in his head. That's all done. We see Stussy is also here. We see, you know, her working with him. Turns out, so maybe Stussy was kind of like his tester clone before he made the clones of himself, and Stussy ended up working. So maybe with Stussy being like the clone 1.0, after Stussy ended up being a success, he ended up cloning himself after that. So I can assume that the satellites have not been created yet, and this is just the beginning of that. And this is before Kuma has his individuality taken from him. Vegapunk says you have about a year before the procedure is done and the personality is erased. And Kuma's just asking questions like, what will I be like when my individuality is gone? And he's just saying like, bro, if somebody asked you to kill a baby, like you would just do it with, you know, no question. And that's just crazy, bro. So Bonney celebrates her 9th birthday, and once again, no letters from Kuma because Alpha keeps ripping them up. She literally has the mail and the letter, rips up the letter, puts the mail into the mailbox, bro. She is wicked. She is trash. Alpha, I don't like you right now, bro. I don't like you. Damn near might hate you. And then we get like a nice little, you know, cool points for Kuma. He's not supposed to work with the revolutionaries, but once he sees them in trouble, he'll go and help them and then like instantly run away because he's not supposed to help them. But at his heart, he's a revolutionary, so he's gonna help them. And we learned that this entire time, for about 6 months, Bonney has been cured this whole time, but Alpha has just been keeping her in sorbet, you know, kind of as a prisoner. And, you know, they were promised that they were supposed to keep track of her until her 10th birthday, but she's been cured this entire time. Her rehab has been done this whole time, mad early. Like you can see like the sapphire stones and all that, like they're gone, bro, they're gone. And Queen Dowager, like she noticed all this stuff. She's like, first of all, she might be cured. Second of all, where's all the letters? Because I know Kuma would write Bonney. So I'm glad someone noticed. So Queen Dowager was actually the one that started the plan in order to get Bonney outside and for her to set sail to the seas to go find her father. And this elaborate plan begins where Bonney has to disguise herself as Queen Dowager, which is something that she can just do, and then head to the ship, get gone. And the plan starts off very smooth. She heads out as Queen Dowager, goes past Alpha, heads to the ship. Alpha heads inside, sees Queen Dowager, takes off towards Bonney. And this last panel is what we need to talk about. Boy, is this something that we need to talk about. Alpha takes off towards Bonney, and she completely like lets her villain side out. You know, she has her monologue, I'm gonna keep you prisoner, you're never gonna get out, and all that, right? And there's a flashback where Bonney asks Kuma, what is Nika like? And he says, this is word for word, no one knows, but they say his body was all rubbery. She uses distorted future on herself, and she says, give me a Nika-ish future. And literally, she becomes Nika, and she's able to rubberize her body, does like a gear 3rd punch on Alpha, knocks her block off. Now, boy, do we have a lot to talk about. So you're telling me Bonnie's fruit cannot just copy other fruits, but she can copy people that she has information on. So is she saying that she can perceive a future of that individual or a fruit that she wants to copy? Because if she can distort her future and make her future into a Nika-ish future, not only does she copy the Gomu Gomu no Mi or the Ito Ito no Mi model Nika, not only does she copy the fruit, she copies the person who the fruit is based off of. So you're telling me Bonney can copy fruits? That is crazy. I literally said, this is the 2nd time that I have said something and it ends up in the future becoming true. I said Katarina Devon might have something where she can copy fruits, not knowing the whole time it is actually Bonney. And in my chapter where Bonney was trying to establish the plan where we get out on the Vega Force tank and she like distorted the future of, you know, those two fodder Marines, I was like, hey, what if Bonnie's fruit is more OP than we think? Turns out it's OP. And we end the chapter there. Now I feel like in the next chapter it might be, but I keep saying it, but we'll see. But it might be the last chapter because after this, like, unless he wants to absolutely go into raw detail of what Bonnie did during her journey, which kind of wouldn't be, it would kind of be unfair because we didn't get no information on the journey of the other supernovas. We just know the outcome of that and what they gained from it. So I don't think we're gonna go specifically into the journey of Bonnie. So it could be the last chapter of Kuma and Bonnie's backstory. But you know, once again, I could be wrong and I'm saying all this for no reason. But if that was gonna be the case, if there was gonna be another chapter of it, like this chapter should have been the end of Kuma and Bonnie's backstory. So what I'm thinking is maybe it's like a half and half. Maybe next chapter we end off Kuma and Bonnie's backstory and Kuma comes through, saves Bonnie, and the last end of the chapter is that. Or it's, you know, the ending of it and we get the cinematic Kuma saves Bonnie in the chapter, no break. So I feel like there is a few things that needs its own video to talk about it, because if I talk about it here, we'll probably be here for a long time. So I'm gonna put this into separate videos. Guys, let's have a nice conversation in the comments down below. What do you guys think about this chapter here? This chapter was crazy for the lore and for the tier list that's gonna be made in the future and all the power scaling and all the, yeah, you're right. This chapter gave a lot of information for a lot of different people that intake One Piece in a lot of different ways. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Of course, push the 2 buttons that the YouTubers love for you to push for the algorithm. And I will see you guys in the next video because this was a W chapter.